I the only one noticing how unpopular Starlight seems to be next to the other characters? It almost seems as if no matter what the writers do with her, she can't seem to please anyone who wasn't already happy. I know you can't please everyone, but I do have to ask, why is this? And more importantly, how in the heck do they fix it? What exactly is wrong here? Very simple answer. Many of those who are continually displeased with Starlight still point to her rushed redemption arc, so we can safely say that winning over more people is going to require addressing that somehow. Another issue that at least I've seen spawn a lot of dissent is the fact that she still feels guilty over her whole cult town thing, even though literally everyone that we've seen has forgiven her 2 seasons ago. Wait a minute. Doesn't something here seem familiar to you guys? The more I think about it, the more Starlight seems to be like Luna from seasons 3 through 5. She's still feeling guilty over something that happened quite a while ago and has been forgiven for it by pretty much everyone else. So it should be clear right about now that what we need is an episode to address Starlight's guilt complex. What we need is essentially do Princess's dream of magic sheep minus Luna and add Starlight. But since that episode was already done, even if we may disagree as fans over how well, rehashing it isn't going to work. So here's the solution I propose. It seems that everyone in Starlight's village has forgiven her, but what if that's not the case? In this episode, Starlight would return to her old village for whatever reason. It doesn't really matter, I guess, so long as she's there. But during her stay, she comes across another resident of the village who isn't quite as forgiving as everyone else. This pony would at first only worsen Starlight's guilt, but eventually Starlight would realize that he's the only one, at least that we've seen, who feels that way about her. But in the process of dealing with this pony and his less than forgiving opinion, Starlight is forced to confront and eventually overcome her guilt complex. This would help the staff to address the most glaring problem in her character and turn it into an active obstacle, something which I feel Starlight currently lacks. In case you guys haven't noticed, the big obstacle for Starlight's character seems to be the past that she hasn't forgiven herself for, even though in reality, everyone else already has, so all this does is create a hole in her character in the form of a guilt complex that goes unaddressed. A good example of this is when she returns to her old village in Pondering back again. She's still a nervous wreck over the whole thing, even though she was there when they forgave her pretty much right after she was reformed. Now, this won't win over every Starlight detractor, and to be fair, probably shouldn't. Dissent is what makes for debate after all, but it would be a massive improvement to her character by giving her an actual obstacle to overcome, as well as progressing her character growth in overcoming that obstacle. If this show is going to be here for this much longer, especially with the current focus that Starlight gets, then it's going to have to make her interesting, and the current failure to do so, in my opinion, will be the overall source of the show's decline in the future if this is left unaddressed. Not only does Starlight suffer from an unaddressed guilt complex, but she also has no real character arc. This is what I feel makes her episodes less interesting, as well as why the show feels like it's getting worse with its current focus on her. In my opinion, this episode would kill both birds with one stone. Now, the more observant among you might have noticed that this episode creates a straw man out of this pony, so I think it's imperative that not only do we not make it seem like he's entirely wrong, but that he not change his opinion, still showing it as a valid viewpoint. Do point out that he's in the minority, and that therefore his opinion shouldn't be holding Starlight back, which would also be her moral for the day, but do not outright invalidate him. Not only that, but the desire to convince ponies such as this gives Starlight a direction for her character to progress, and in turn, a direction for earning more of the fans' approval. This way we create an episode that's similar to DPDMS, but applies to Starlight, and of course the ending wouldn't have those horrid implications to hold it back, and this way we get a more developed tertiary character out of the episode. We all know fans like that sort of thing. Not only would this be a good episode for Starlight's character, but I feel that an episode that shares this function of giving her an arc is going to be necessary. Leaving it unaddressed is only going to either cause the show to stagnate or force us to change focus, essentially leaving Starlight as a forever unresolved character. This is primarily because of the show's focus on her, especially from the second half of season 6 forward, while simultaneously not giving us anything to focus on with her. While she has a good starring role in episodes like Royal Problem, they don't really advance her as much as the characters she's around. Royal Problem, for example, was the Royal Sisters show, not Starlight's. Combined with the things I've already gone over, leaving Starlight as she currently is a recipe for disaster. Actually having her move on from her own friendship lessons and seeing some significant change in her life, like what was suggested in Celestial Advice, would be a good fix too, but seeing as to how the staff just weakly brushed aside that possibility when they were not only given the opportunity but made it the focus of the episode tells me that they're probably pretty adamant about keeping her around, and more importantly, unchanged. Thanks for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share. This is Onyx the Dragon, signing out.